Hi, this is Dave with the weekly market recap commentary. This week we want to take a look at the Dow futures as we usually do on the daily chart, and we're taking a look here at where we left off last week. And last week what we were looking at was a potential symmetry move from this area here, the distance of this area projected from point 1 to point 2 and projected to point 3 over here, and you can see that we hit the 100% of that at the top of this channel as well here where this trend line meets, and we found resistance there, and we were expecting some type of a pullback. Well, we got that pullback this week right into the 21 exponential moving average, and basically what we're looking at here is we hit the 21 EMA. And I apologize, my drawing is really bad with the mouse today. So we hit the 21 EMA, and basically what you have here is a close in between the 8 EMA, which is this yellow line, and the 21 EMA, which is this the cyan and the white line. So basically what you have is really just a close into no man's land. So at this point in time, is this the pullback that we were expecting, or let me just zoom in the chart a little bit here, or are we expecting a pullback, a more significant pullback, say into some of these levels down here where you have the the 13,200 level, which is the breakout level and coincides with the swing high over here and coincides with this trend line over here. So this level right here would be a stronger support level. So we've kind of, we're in between these highs and this strong support level. So at this point in time, not sure if we got the full pullback that we were expecting, or if we should be looking for a deeper pullback. So at this point in time, there's really nothing to really do except to see, are we going to pull back down to this level, or are we going to find support here and push off and potentially break this level and be set to make a new swing high. So at this point in time, not quite sure. What we were expecting last week kind of played out, but we're none the better for it, in terms of any type of decision points. So let's take a look at the sister indices and see where they're sitting at. So we'll start with the let's see here. Let's start with the S&P futures. So the S&P futures are looking much the same. You had a pullback down into that 20 period moving average, that 21 period moving average. You really don't have any type of indication at this point in time where it's going to go. Let's see, you have potential support levels down here, which coincides with the breakout. So it looks pretty much the same as the Dow. You're kind of in no man's land there. You're sort of holding this trend line over here. Let me just draw this. You've got, I'm going to get rid of these trend lines here because it looks like we've sort of developed some new trend lines here. And let's see. So we went right into that 1272 extension as well on the S&P futures. So let me just draw this trend line here. This trend line looks a little bit more prominent. You've got this trend line here, and then you have sort of a let me just new parallel. There we go. And then you have this sort of quasi trend line there, and they're both sort of in play. Here's the immediate support and intermediate support. Here's the the longer term trend line support. So it looks very much the same at this point in time. Not much to do. Same situation as the Dow. Let's take a look at the Nasdaq futures. So the Nasdaq futures look pretty much the same. They're holding sort of this congestion area and this breakout swing high, this minor swing high. They held that level and they're just kind of meandering about. So, they pretty much hit their 1272 extension as well. Not much to do there either. So the question is, are we going to pull down, to some more significant support levels, or are we, sort of finding support at this 21 exponential moving average. So that's really the main question this week going into next week. Let's take a look at the transports. So this to me is a cautionary flag. I mean, from a Dow theory perspective, you want to sort of see the transports. I would have expected to see the transports somewhere up here, retesting their previous highs, and instead these are really diverging from the stock indices and from the Dow. So at this point in time, I am a cautious long. The potential for downside is still there into some of those support levels, and then we'll see if we break up above some of those swing highs. Then that will kind of confirm from a price perspective that we're just kind of chugging along, and the quantitative easing measures are probably kicking in. So at this point in time, I think we're really in neutral territory here, because we have some divergences here, and the pullback and the action when it pulled back seemed kind of weak. So we're going to need a little bit of further direction going into next week to see really what's going to take place here. Maybe if we take a look at some shorter time frame charts, using multi-time frame analysis, and just kind of let's go back to, for example, the Dow, and let's take a look at a 60-minute chart. Well, the 60-minute chart is still net negative, so we don't have any kind of reversal signals here. This is something that I like to do quite often to see, are we still negative? Are we turning around? You can see the trending indicator is negative. You haven't broke, any kind of downtrend lines. If you take a look at the 15-minute chart, it's really sloppy. You have the potential for, a reversal if it breaks above that trend line there. And then let's take a look at the 5-minute chart, which reacts a lot faster. And you put in a couple of higher lows, but it's not really decisive. I mean, these are kind of sloppy trend lines, and then you have the potential where we've put in a couple of higher lows. I think we really need to break above some of these levels in order to get actionable to the long side again. So at this point in time, we can really only wait for next week to see what next week brings, and that's really going to tell the story. So if we take a look at some of the same markets on the from the Darvish squeeze perspective, you still have this Darvish squeeze on the weekly chart in play, and from the weekly chart perspective, on the Dow, you're really just kind of holding support at the 8-period exponential moving average in and around this level. So you've got this sort of trend line in play as well. If I can just kind of move that up, so a pullback down to that trend line would still be, we're still on the bullish side of the weekly chart, and we're holding that yellow line in here, which is an 8-period exponential moving average. So if we take a look at, let's see, the S&P, you're holding the 8-period exponential moving average on the weekly chart. So it's still fairly bullish, and you're holding, the breakout of that Darvish box, which would have been, previous, significant previous weekly highs. You can see you kind of broke it here with this wide range bar above this high and above that Darvish box, pushed higher, pull back. This is pretty normal behavior. Look at the NASDAQ. Same situation, you broke this previous weekly high, you just came right back down to it. You're holding the 8-period exponential moving average on the weekly chart. It still looks fairly constructive, fairly bullish. Anything above the 21-period moving average, which is this white line on these weekly charts, is really just a pullback to weekly support. So you can play the ebbs and flows of that in between. Generally, like if it looks like we're not going to hold this level, we're going to push down to this level. You've got room to the downside. But ultimately you have to be aware of where your support and resistance levels are in your weekly charts, because you don't really want to hold into those levels if you're expecting something else to happen. So for example, let's say if it broke this level and you've got this sort of air to play in between the 8 and the 21. Well, do you really want to be short into a 21 exponential moving average on a weekly chart, which is considered fairly strong support? Probably not. I mean, at least in my opinion. So just taking a look at the transports on the weekly chart, they just really look ugly and sloppy. I mean, we're coming down to the bottom of this Darvas box, and we're in this really elongated multi-week squeeze. This is sort of a red flag to me. Like if we break this Darvas box and we fire a Darvas squeeze on the transports, that's really a red flag to me, and I'll become very cautious on the stock indices in general. You were holding this zero line on the MACD, and now you're starting to roll below the zero line on the MACD, and the trending indicator starting to roll to the downside. You've got a red Hakanashi. So this is really the major support here in and around the bottom of this Darvas box level. So that's a level that I'll be watching going forward to see if we're getting a really, we're basically getting a divergence between the stock indices and the transport. So that's not usually what you want to see. So let's clear off some of these charts and let's take a look at the euro and see what the euro is looking like this week. So if we just kind of flip back over to these charts over here, and let's take a look at the euro futures. So at EC, okay, this chart's looking pretty ugly with all of the all of the stuff we've got on it. But basically what we were looking at last week, you had a break of this trend line, you had the test of 130. Let me just see here. So you had the test of 130. This was an area going back that we've been talking about, looking at a major support level, got broken here, precipitated a big decline, and then with the all the news out, all the QE3 measures, we've got to move right back into this level, a spike through it, which was probably, I'm guessing, probably a stop run. Although the volume didn't pick up, significantly, but we kind of pushed through it, and now we're trading back below this $1.30 level. This is really the key level in the euro, and you can see here you've got this sort of ascending. Let me just see here. You've got this kind of ascending trend line here, at a not necessarily a parabolic angle, but it's a little bit more than a normal, sustainable 45 kind of degree trend angle here. Should probably let's make this green one white so it's a little bit easier to see. And you can see here you're just kind of holding in and around that trend line. You're holding this 21 exponential moving average right in here. So you're pretty much in the same position, in the same situation as you are with the stock indices, where you kind of closed at a sort of a line in the sand right at your 21 exponential moving average, and you're just sort of sitting there doing nothing right at the close of the week. So to me, that signals that the market is indecisive, potentially could be waiting for something. I didn't really check to see what the major news was coming up next week, but to me this is pretty indecisive action in all of the markets that we've looked at so far, and there's nothing really actionable to do here. So what we really need to see going into early next week is, are we getting signs that we're going to push down into maybe some bigger support levels, or are we going to find some strength, and potentially retest, or potentially break through the high. So that's really the big question mark going into the end of this week. Going into next week, we'll really have to see where that's the market's going to take us. As a side note, it's not uncommon here, when you break a significant downtrend line like this was, to come down and just test the top of this trend line. So even a push down into the top of this trend line wouldn't be unexpected. A little bit of slipping through the 21 exponential moving average right down to test the tops of this downtrend line. So, there's really nothing to do here except kind of review where we are this week in the markets. I don't really have an opinion either way. And just a quick reminder, these videos are for educational purposes only. They're not meant as advice of any kind whatsoever. So I don't really have even a personal opinion on where I think this market is going at this point in time, because we're kind of, we're kind of right at the line in the sand and right in the middle here. So I hope this analysis helps. I apologize, the charts are a little bit messy this week. I'll review them and see if maybe there is, maybe I can take some of these lines off of here and clean them up a little bit going into next week. But there's really not much to be said or done here. We have a meetup coming up tomorrow, which is going to focus on looking at different Fibonacci concepts. So I hope to see you all there. And good trading, and have a fantastic rest of weekend, and have a fantastic trading week next week. Good trading. Take care.